what you need to know about cost management to be a successful project manager. My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management specialist. Before I start, make sure if you like the content here and share with more people so more people can learn project management. Also, leave your comments here and let me think what you think about this video here. And before I start also, this is part of the warm-up for the Project Management Summit. This is a new event that I'm preparing that's going to be first week of November. It will be a completely updated and review from everything that I've done in the past, also collecting feedback for that I get from people, challenges and things that I'm learning. So that's something very interesting. If you're interested on that, just go in the link in the bio here and subscribe. Everything is for free. Then we are going to have 4 sessions where we are going to talk about a lot of stuff in project management field. So the topic today, it could not be different. It's of course cost management. Why I'm saying that? First, that if you need to keep in mind that the ultimate goal of any project is delivering value. In one of the main or most common goal organizations they measure value delivery is via finance. I'm not saying that finance is the only way to measure value. There are projects that they are initiated without even a business case, but finance is very commonly a way to measure value in most of companies. So, and ironically, finance is cost management. It's a blind spot for a lot of project managers. I'm saying that from what I've seen in these more than 13 years of experience with project management. I've seen a lot of project managers fail because of they do not have minimum knowledge on finance. And when I'm talking about finance, I'm not talking about finance for you to be a project controller or a CFO or anything like that. I'm saying the minimum knowledge that you need to have to understand your business case and do a good cost management. So the topic that we are going to discuss here is very important in any organization there. And of course, and I would like to start this discussion with a quote here from Peter Drucker saying that you cannot manage what you don't measure. So cost management is a way to measure how your project is progressing here. And I'm going to talk about here about a very common cost management process or cost management method, called earned value management. If you are familiar with the PMBOK, or if you are studying for the PMP exam, or if you have been studying project management in general, likely you heard the term earned value management. Basically, in the earned value management, you try to combine, or you combine scope, time, and cost with a method to see and to track, to measure how the project is going, to make sure that you can take timely decisions and steer the project in the right direction here. Because again, if you are not measuring anything, you are not controlling, you are not managing anything, and I've seen that happen in practice. Then what happened in the end of the project? The company is surprised with over budget, bad business case, not delivering the value that they expected. And here is an important point, that if your project is on budget, so if your budget is controlled, does not mean that you are going to deliver a successful project also. However, if your project is over budget, your business case is not controlled, the chances that you're going to deliver a successful project, they reduce a lot. So let me explain the earned value idea and the concept around that. This is very important, and I'm also going to explain the 2 most common KPIs that you have there on the PMBOK. And if you understand the concept, you can translate that for any company that you are working on. So let me explain. So first, the concept that you have, it's what's called the planned value. That's very straightforward. For example, if you have a 1 year project with a budget of 120, let's assume that you are dividing the budget equally, the amount of work is divided equally for each of those months, which usually is not the case, but just for the sake of the example, your planned value, so if you divided 120 by 12, your planned value per month would be 10. So that's the amount of work that you plan to execute in a month. And of course, the planned value is always connected with your budget, basically, because basically what you are going to do there is you are going to plan a value that you are going to expend for several activities or tasks, deliverables, or anything that you need to buy there. Then you have the concept of earned value. What's earned value? That means that basically you have there your budget to execute something. Let's assume here that you are executing a house. Then if you have a budget to build the roof of the house, and if you have a budget of 100, just to make things a bit easier. What does it mean then? So if you complete the roof of the house, your earned value there is 100, because the earned value is performed and is expressed based on the authorized budget, basically on the budget that was approved in your baseline. That means if you complete that roof, then of 100, you are good, right? Because you are on the budget there. Then the company earned that value. But you have something that might differ from your earned value. That's your actual cost. Meaning, for example, in the case of the house, let's assume that you planned in a month to complete the roof, the house, then your planned value is 100, your earned value there it's 100, but you end up that your actual cost there is 120, which means that you overspend 20 to create this roof of the house. That's why when you talk about the earned value management, this concept is so interesting here, because you also have what you plan, you have what's called the earned value, meaning that's the value that you're adding with this activity or this deliverable, and you have the actual cost, because a lot of times things can cost more than you planned, or they can cost even less, which is in this case would be good for a project. But this is very important here, and I'm going to come back to that. And then of course, then you have what's called the project budget. Basically is the sum of all budgets to execute the project in the project that you save as a budget baseline. You have another concept that's the estimate to complete, meaning that if you're moving to a project, you are, let's talk about the example of the house. I mentioned that you have a budget of 120 for 12 months. Let's assume that you are in the middle of the project and you have an actual cost there of 60. But your earned value there is 40. Then if you make an estimation, you say, oh, I need another 100 here to complete the house as I want. So you're having, then you need to make this estimate to complete to make sure that you're going to compare your actual plus estimate of your complete with your budget. And this is quite important, because here is something that I've seen going wrong a lot of times, where project managers, they are working there, then usually they get a cost report, or they can or they go directly via an ERP like a SAP or Oracle to get a cost report. Then you get the actual cost from the project up to a specific month. For example, if you're talking about this year, you're talking about, at least when I'm recording this video is 2023. And if you're talking looking back, you have the actual cost until end of September. So this is an information that you can get from your system. However, a lot of project managers, they compare this actual cost with your budget. But the thing is, if you are in the early stages of a project, your actual cost will always be lower than your budget. Then people think, oh, we are good, we are good, we are good, we are good, until you reach middle of the project or a bit more, I don't know, 70-80% of the project, and suddenly you have a spike on your cost and say, ooh, I'm over budget. And you don't even know if this over budget it's the end of it, because sometimes you have another couple of months before you complete the project. So you should never compare your actual cost poorly with your budget. And that's also the beauty of this earned value management, because you need to keep in mind that if you plan all the activities through several months and sometimes several years, you have this what's called the planned value. It's how you're planning to expand your budget there. And this can vary depending on the phase, depending on the type of project. You might have spikes. But your planned value here, your actual cost, hopefully it's following a similar, or at least a kind of similar distribution that you have in your actual, that you have in your planned value there. But because a lot of project managers, they do not understand the concept of earned value management. They do not understand this method, and then so they do not understand planned value, earned value, and actual cost. So they make this mistake to compare your actual cost with your project budget. And then, of course, you end up in a situation that can be very messy. I've seen projects way over budget, with business case in a very, very bad situation, which end up even with project managers being fired. So this can be very serious here in the type of organization that you are working on. So it's very important that you understand that. And you also have what's called estimate at complete. That's basically what you're going to do, actual cost, but estimate to complete. So this is very straightforward and very important to you to understand those concepts. So if you have questions, please ask it, because this is something very critical for you to understand. So let me explain the two most common KPIs that you are going to see in the PMBOK. They are not the only ones. You have a list of KPIs that you see there, but SPI, Schedule Perform Index, and Cost Perform Index, CPI, they are the very common. So what you do with the Schedule Perform Index, you want to understand if you are on time or not. So what you do there, you're going to compare your earned value and your planned value to see, okay, my plan to build this house in the middle of the year was to have 60 as a planned value, but I have my earned value as 60. So that means you are on time. Or if you have an index that's below 1, that means that you are delayed. If you have an index above 1, it means you are ahead of time. However, because you're on time does not mean that you are on cost. Those things, they can go very wildly in different directions. And this is also a common assumption that I've seen from non-experienced project managers, or also those project managers where finance is a blind spot for them. Because they keep seeing the project on time, they do not understand a lot about cost management, about finance for projects. So they keep comparing the actual cost with your budget, then see that everything is fine, and suddenly, boom, the project is over budget. So you also have an index that you can calculate, you can use to see where you are with the cost. Basically, what those indexes do here, you are going to use here your earned value and your actual cost. Because in this case that I'm mentioning for the house, you can have another earned value of 60, but you can have an actual cost, for example, of 80. That means that you are over budget. That means that you are overspending, even though you are on time. or maybe you are on time because you are overspending. Maybe you are doing extra hours and all this kind of stuff that can be there, depending on the situation of your project. But again, and why this is so common? Because, well, of course, if you are doing the PMP exam, you are going to get very easily in the exam the earned value and the planned value. They are going to ask you the idea if the project is on time, on budget, or not. That's very straightforward. But they are also very important also because if you understand those index, basically you need to understand the earned value management concept there. And even though you do not have never used the index as it's stated here or as it's stated in PMBOK in any of the projects I've seen in this more than 13 years, I've been working in different countries and different companies. But once you understand the concept from what you're doing here, you can apply it in all the project that you are going to do there, in all the cost management that you need to do there. And very important, remember that every project should have at least two KPIs. KPI stands for key performance indicator. One for time and one for cost. Not saying that should be only those ones, but those two are essentials. And remembering Peter Drucker here, you can manage what you don't measure. So you are working your project there. So hopefully at least now you have an understanding what's earned value management and why it's important for you to understand those concepts. Some things that you really need to avoid while working with a project or while working with your cost management there. Let me see. Oh, if you're working with your project, usually you're going to see something like that. This is a very simple cost control example. So you have your WBS, your work breakdown structure. Then you are going to have there your actual cost, for it can be each internal order or each cost center or whatever the cost structure the company is using there. Very important, then you need to have your estimate to complete. Here, it's, as I mentioned, it's very important that you do not make an assumption saying, thinking that just the gap that you see between the budget and your actual, that's the money that it's going to be enough to complete the project, because in reality you don't know that. But that's why you need every month to do this estimate to complete, because if you take your actual and your estimate to complete, then you have your estimate at completion, and the estimate at completion is something that you can compare with budget. So to make sure that you are making the right comparison there. And cost control, it's basically an input that you're going to use for your project business case there. But it's very important that you never compare again only the actual cost with your budget. And if you're working your cost management, because you need to make the estimate to complete, you should never work on a cost estimation, you should never work on this cost management file without understand where your project stand on for the scope and the time. Why? Because your estimate to complete will depend on the scope that you still need to execute and the timeline that you need to do that. And of course, I'm saying time because you have some items depending on the type of project that you're working on that it goes that you have this cost every month that you're executing a project. For example, if you're in a site, you have a construction site, you have a fixed cost per month just to keep the site working, like energy, sometimes you have rental equipment and all this kind of stuff. So any extra month will add some time there, even though if you're not executing there. So this is a kind of fixed cost that you have per month in your project, depending on the type of project. But depending on the type of scope that you still need to do. For example, if you still need to buy equipment, or if you still need to buy material, or if you still need to run tests, if there's still design work to be done, all those things, they are going to influentiate your estimate to complete. So you should never work on your cost management file, your cost review, your budget review without understanding where you stand there on your timeline and your scope. And remembering that if you if you understand the idea of SPI, you are going to have something that at least will give you a cost indication, progress indication here, a KPI for timeline. And for construction, you can have an S curve. Depending on if you are using Scrum or Kanban, you can have burn down charts, or you can have track the progress in the MS project itself, or you can have a KPI or whatever way. But it's important that you have something there, because if you do not do the schedule part, the cost tracking part, the time tracking part right, for sure you're going to be in trouble with your cost part. And likewise, if you do not have your cost part also doing right, you might end up having problems with your schedule part, because if you need to get extra budget approval to put more hours in the project, and you do not know that, you run out of the budget, then you might get trouble to get it approved. Something else that's very important to you to keep in mind if you're working there with your cost management is being very careful about the accrued cost. Basically, what's an accrued cost? It's a cost that the company already owns it, but it's not only invoiced yet. For example, if you hire a company to execute a service for you, and they execute the service, they just did not send the invoice, and then you own this service to the company. But because of how the costing works on the systems in your company, the actual cost is going to be recognized in the system once they have an invoice, and that will be processed there in the system. So you're going to be able to see the cost. Of course, in different type of companies, depending on the system they have, they also you can see a report from what's the committed there, meaning that item that you already sent a purchase order there. Then you can see it, but sometimes this committed there cannot be so straightforward, because sometimes you have a contract there, say, hey, I'm going to pay you depending on what you're going to execute, like it can be a contract for renting an equipment for use, and this value is going to can vary a bit month by month. And of course, you have a total cap that you have there in your contract. So those accrued costs, these are values that the company already own. They are just not still there being the actual cost. And why I'm saying that? Because I've seen this going wrong a lot of times. Gladly not on my projects, because I got this advice also very early in my career, and because I've seen this go badly just with some peers, then I took this very seriously. And what happened is, if you are not taking into consideration the accrued cost and you see that the task is already completed, you look for the actual cost, you assume all the cost is already there, you do not add anything in the estimation to complete, and suddenly you have all those costs there that are floating, and at some point in time they are going to move to your actual cost. Of course, depending on the type of project that you are executing, those values can be very minor, and this gap can be short, so might be 1 month maximum, but sometimes the gap can be big, 2 or 3, I've seen even 4 months, and with values above 50K, 100K, or even more, uh, hundreds of thousands. So that can be a very bad surprise, and that can hit you really bad, because in this case you say, but I'm doing the right thing. I'm looking for the actual cost. I'm making the estimate to complete. I'm looking to my progress there. I'm looking for my scope, but somehow I miss this, and this comes and hit me just right in the face. That's why I'm giving you this advice, and I always mention that be very careful with the accrued costs. If you are working on a company, those accrued costs can happen in different ways. In some companies, they can be more severe than in other ones. But this is very important. Let me uh, tell you a story that I've seen uh, probably 2 or 3 years ago. In a company that I was working on, one of my peers, and he was working with one of the factories that from the company. And in the end of their project, he got an information from the factory they had. I, I believe it was about 300,000 euros that they would like to transfer for the project. In the end of the project to be closed, and that was a very very bad surprise. What happened is, in 2 or 3 years of project, the factory never transferred the cost for the project. Someone forgot it, whatever happened in the process there. But at some point, they had to close their year. They were a bit short their targets, and someone decided to scrutinize their cost there, and they found out those 300 cases. Say, hey, this we can put to the project, and we reach our target here. And of course, I was not the project manager there, very gladly for that. But the project manager had to give a lot of explanations what happened, why was that happening, why no one seen 300,000 euros. That's a lot of money to be forgot like that. But that was not the only time I've seen this kind of stuff happening. But that's why I mentioned to you, be careful with those accrual costs, and they can come externally from the invoicing, or they can come from internal transfers among different areas, different entities in the same company. But that's something very important. How to prevent that? Well, if you do not see the cost, ask. Or if you do not see the cost, make sure that you add something in the estimate to complete, to make sure that you always cover there, and you always have enough money uh, to complete your project, and at least you have a fair comparison in your estimate at complete with your budget, because then it makes much easier. If you say, I believe my projects, or my estimation, my project is going to end up with I don't know, 10% of over budget. If you still have 6 months, 1 year of project, you can look for ways how you can reduce this amount, how you can better control to make sure you shorten this gap. But if it's in the last month, then it's done. That's not much what you can do. And then, of course, you're going to have a post-mortem, painful discussion to understand what happened, and so on. So, what I want you to keep in mind from today: first, understand what's earned value management. Here I give you some brief explanation with some main of those topics, but if you do not understand, this is a very important concept in project management. Understand planned value, earned value, and actual cost, and of course the estimations here, and how this relates with the budget. I talk about the index here, what are the SPI and CPI index, and what they mean, and what's the importance of understanding this concept. You might not use the index as I'm stating here, or as it's stated in the PMBOK, but you're going to use the concepts. You should use the concepts in your project. And when we talk about cost control, 3 very important items: never compare your budget only with your actual cost. Always make sure that you understand where you are with your timeline, with your scope, while you are working on the estimate to complete. And be careful with the accrued costs there. Make sure, again, you like this content and share with more people, so more people can learn cost management and more people can perform better in their projects. Don't forget to sign up for the Project Management Summit. That's going to be 1 week, 4 sessions with a lot of project management content. It's everything for free, so make sure you subscribe. You are going to get all the material for warm up, a lot of insights that I'm going to share to you across this next month here. And let me know if you have questions. Let me know what you think about the content, if you're enjoying or not. And hopefully, I'm going to see you around. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.